Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I'm a little bit different kind of guy. I know I'm different, and I'm proud of it. I don't care what other people think. I know I'm different than other people. One of the things I like to do, dig, constant research. I probably spend at least 4 hours a day, and I have for many years. And back when I was younger, I used to do more research, be up in the middle of the night. I can't get involved in movies and stuff very much, like fiction. I can watch 15 minutes of a movie, and I get bored with it, and I'll go back to my research or whatever. I can't. I gotta stay in the nonfiction, real things, you know. And this is what I've been researching for real things for many years. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a show here. I'm gonna show you one of the things that I've been researching for many years, and I was fascinated in when I was a bit younger. I don't research it as much as I used to. I used to dig through book after book. I got libraries of books. I got some books that are very rare, you know, that are hard to get a hold of copies of in my library of books. I probably got a couple thousand books, but they're all nonfiction. They're all books that I followed during my research. I would find books on the subject matter that I was interested in. And I'm going to tell you something else about cryptocurrencies. I've pretty much satisfied myself now in what I think they're going to do. They're taking over. Slowly but surely, cryptocurrencies are taking over. And I think ultimately, the decentralized cryptocurrencies are probably going to win. And so, which ones do you want? Maybe I'll do a show on that coming right up. But I recorded a show on you guys so you can see some of the stuff that I'm interested in. And let's play the show now. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Thursday, the 3rd of June, 2021. Thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to do a little something different. I'm going to talk about some of the things I've been interested in the past. Well, I'm still interested in. Back when, let's see, it must be about 35 years ago now, I took an absolute fascination in ancient study of the ancient deities of the Middle East. Mankind grew up in an area. This is when they started up in around Africa and North Africa, in an area called the Fertile Crescent, which is now the area in around Baghdad. And they dug up ancient tablets. Thousands of these tablets were buried in the sand for many thousands of years. Several of the tablets that they dug up, they recognized some of the stories in the tablets, that paralleled or were very similar to the stories in the Bible about the flood. Anyway, let's get in there. We're going to take a quick introduction to an ancient culture that used to exist called the Sumerian civilization. Let's get started, and let's open up the charts right here. And let's see, the first thing I want to show you guys is this is what the tablets look like. Here's a picture of one of the tablets. They were what were called cuneiform tablets. I have trouble pronouncing the name, but what they basically did was they took a big lump of clay and they flattened it out, they rolled it, and then they took a stencil, a little piece of wood or whatever, and they pressed these writings into the tablet. Then they baked these tablets until they became pottery, hard clay tablets. And this was very important to our ancient culture. And one of the reasons why is this was so important that they did it this way. They didn't realize at the time when they were building these tablets out of clay, they didn't realize that they would last like 10,000 years. Now, later we started to use something called papyrus. The Egyptians extensively used papyrus, and it's where the word paper was derived from. And what they would do is they'd take the reeds from from the side of the river Nile, and they would flatten them out and dry them in the sun, and they would make the earliest form of paper. And then they would use ink, and they made scrolls. This came along later. But, you know, paper doesn't last near as long. It disintegrates. Whereas these hard clay baked tablets, they last much, much longer. And so when they first dug these tablets up out of the sand, they had a hard time deciphering what was written on them. Here's a picture of one of them right here. Let me close in for you guys so you can see. Bring the shot in so you guys can see. This is one of the tablets. You know what it looks like to me? It looks like they took a lump of mud and just flattened it out, you know, and pressed these symbols in with a stylus or a stick of some sort, you know. But it's writing in the ancient Sumerian text, you know. So I got interested in these things, and I started studying these things, and I couldn't get enough books on it. I was voracious for information on the ancient Sumerian civilization and the system of gods and deities that they worshipped. And it turns out that even though the Sumerian civilization was earlier than the Egyptians, it was earlier than the Babylonians, it was earlier than the Assyrians, they had a better civilization that was run more effectively than what we have today. We're all messed up, guys. We're heading toward a crisis right now because our money is all messed up, you know, and we can't seem to get anything straight. But these people, you know, they had organization. They had schools. They had running water. They had libraries. There's another picture of them, you know. And they also had a system of gods that they used to worship. And they had two primary gods that they used to worship. Now let me expand the charts here a little bit. The first god was a god called Enki. And we read here, it says Enki was the god of Lord Earth, or Waterhouse, is the name of the Sumerian god of wisdom and ruler of the fresh waters, or the oceans, the Abazu. He was considered the god of craftsmen, artists, and magicians. His special achievement was the creation of humans. Enki is represented with the rivers Euphrates and Tigris, which flow from his shoulders, and his hands hold a vessel from which water gushes. So let's see if we can get a picture of Enki here. Okay, he's the one here. Now, these gods have horned helmets. This was very interesting or peculiar to the Sumerian civilization was, as they often depicted the gods with horned helmets. And Enki was the one, you see his shoulders here, you see these like rivers flowing out of his shoulders with fish. They drew little fish, like in the two rivers, one side flowing out of each of his shoulders. Probably to depict the Tigris and Euphrates River. So that was the god Enki. Then they had another major god that they worshipped, and his name was Enlil, E-N-L-I-L. And he is the main god of the Sumerian and Akkadian pantheon. He is the predecessor and model of later deities of various ancient Oriental peoples. The son of the sky god, An. Well, they wrote An, but it's actually Anu. And that's where we got our word for annum, or for our year, is from the sky god Anu, A-N-N-U, was his name, you know. And we got the word annual from that, from Anu. It says Enlil was worshipped as the supreme god and called king of the heavens and earth, king of countries, father of the gods. Later, he developed into the god Zeus. If you've ever heard of Zeus, you know, he was a prerequisite. And of course, it says here that he was the main god of the Sumerian and Akkadian pantheon, and he is a predecessor and model of later deities of various ancient Oriental peoples. So Zeus was a later model. this particular god is each of these gods had a planet associated with them. And the ancient Sumerians used to build these things called ziggurats, and they were basically a step pyramid. They were very pretty. What they used to do was each of the planetary deities had a different color associated with the planetary deities. And there were 7 in all, so they'd have 7 stages to the ziggurat. And each stage was like a foundation for this step pyramid. But they weren't really steps. It would be like maybe 15 feet or 20 feet up each level, And, of course, in the front, generally what they would have is a stairway leading up. And on each level, they would paint it with a different color paints. And yes, the Sumerian civilization, they had paint back then. All different colors. And you imagine how pretty this thing was. A giant pyramid, enormous in size, and each level painted a different color associated with each of the particular deities. At the top, they would have this giant room where they would have the temple to the deity at the very top of the pyramid, And they would have a holy and a most holy area where they would go in and worship that particular deity. Generally, it was associated with this god here, Enlil, or possibly Enki, which was this particular deity right here. So, this civilization existed. It was the earliest civilization, but it died out at a certain period in time. And when this civilization died out, 3 civilizations sprung from the roots of this particular civilization. One civilization that sprung from it was the Babylonian civilization. And then the next one that sprung from it was the Egyptian civilization and the Assyrian civilization. The Assyrians, they were very ruthless in their warfare. Perhaps I'll go into that later about the Assyrians. Let me see what we can pull up here. The true history of etched in clay by the Sumerians. So here we see the horned helmet again. What's this? They're putting an ad up on me. Visitor or something. They want me to subscribe. These sites, they always want money. Money, money, money. Our system, completely runs on money nowadays. Anyway, guys, this was a subject that I was interested in for many years, and I did a lot of research and studying on it. Probably 15, 20 years of research that I put into this. Now, I'm not connected with any universities or affiliated with any schools or anything like that. I was just doing this research on my own because it was something that I was completely interested in, And I learned an awful lot of things about the ancient civilizations and how how these cultures developed and the system of deities they had, and how these deities related to deities that came along later. It seems like part of the culture and custom was to take the attributes of a particular deity, and then a new civilization or a new culture would come along, and what they would do is they'd rename that same deity, and they would give him another name under a new culture. So what you have is the Sumerians, gods like Enki and Enlil. Later in the Babylonians, they would take the same deities and they would give it a new name, but it would have the same attributes. The deity would have the same attributes.